The answer or my response in return to the question is going to be this started back in 2017 for me, following a very low moment in my life on a breakup. And at the time, I thought it was the worst thing ever. And I was very depressed for like 3 months, like, was really in my feelings, really took a toll on me. But now looking back at it, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, Derek. I'm like we were talking about before we started this, gratitude, right? People think you should only be grateful for what? Which
For
will
for the
just
good
the,
stuff.
just for the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, I would like to push back on that. I think it's shouldn't just be one-sided. It should also be the other side, right? Because if the bad stuff doesn't happen, how are you going to be grateful for the good stuff? Because you wouldn't even know what that felt like because you hadn't felt the opposite, right?
Yeah.
So that was me going through that period, right? I was getting to see what the opposite felt like. And through that whole experience, I learned a lot about myself. Number one, I learned that I didn't love myself. And then I thought about it. Okay, if you don't love yourself, Carter, then how the hell could you expect somebody else to love you?
Yeah.
Now, with that, I also realized we definitely weren't meant to be together. And her letting me go was the best thing that could have happened. And I am a fighter and a problem solver. I probably would have stayed in the relationship for another 7 years.
Yeah.
Just, hey, there's a solution here. There's the,
We're gonna figure this out.
we're just going to figure this
Yeah.
out. Right. But, and at the time, I was like, how could she be so heartless? Blah, blah, blah. But no,
Yeah.
no, no, she wasn't. She
Uh,
saw it, and I'm grateful for it, and I have since told her thank you, and then I am grateful for her letting me go. And then so through that whole process, right, and going into that deep dark night of the soul, feeling all that intense emotion for whatever for reason for me, that was in a very intense moment for me. There's other people that have gone through way worse stuff. They're like, Carter, that's freaking child's play. Like, are you kidding me? Are you crying about a breakup? Boo hoo hoo. Heard you.
yeah.
And that is valid to say that. But for whatever reason, that had my number, right? And that was my thing that I had to get through. Don't know why, but it is a thing
But the
and
focus is the takeaway though, because it was we're calling it a breakup, but the reality is you went low, right?
mhm,
And then you're saying 3 months, 90 days, whatever. But the point of it is what did you the juice there is what you learned, which is when you were able to say thank you.
correct. Well,
Because most people stay in that victim mentality where it's like for the rest of their lives that whoever that person, they blame that person and it's like 10 years away and it's like a new relationship or a new job or a new experience and they're still blaming 10-year ago person who has totally forgotten that even happened.
yeah. So, but I do want to stay on target. So the point of all of this was to answer the question of why I want to do this, right? How we got here. So checking a couple boxes, telling the audience a little bit about myself, getting vulnerable because if you want others to get vulnerable, I believe you must be willing to do it yourself first.
True. Yeah.
And so with that, I'm going through this whole period. I moved back in with well, not back in. I had never like lived with my dad by himself. My parents were separated, so I was actually ended up that was another great positive because my dad and my relationship through middle school and high school and outside of it was a little strained, and it wasn't. And there's reasons, and I'm not going to go into that, but he had really been making a big effort to make up for some things and really show up for me during that period of my life. And so it just worked out. It was an opportunity for me to really heal that relationship and grow it as well. Didn't realize it at the time. So extremely grateful for that. So that was another awesome, beautiful thing that came from this so-called terrible experience. But while all this is happening, I'm at home one day and I'm turning on Netflix. Woe is me, right? And this is before, I turned into the Carter that you guys know today. Um, and I'm scrolling and I see Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny. And I almost didn't click on it, watched it. Something told me, watch this. It was like a voice in my head. I don't know how to explain it. And it was like compelled me to press that button. I don't know what the reality would look like if I didn't press that button, but I'm glad I did. And then from that moment on, my life was changed. And that documentary did a couple things for me. It taught me to question things. It let me know that I had been programmed by my environment, and that the truth was out there, and that I could take my life back, and that I can be the source of my change, and that this this so-called bad moment is actually a good thing. This so-called bad moment, so that was the moment I learned that lesson, was from that documentary. I wholeheartedly believed it, and I started that day focusing on all of the things that I was grateful for from this misery. And then I just started doing the work. I was like, all right, I got to start getting healthy. I got to start changing my mind. And then through this whole process, and I started devouring Tony Robbins' content. And then he started telling me about other people that he studied from. So I started devouring their content. And through this whole process, I realized that Tony was taking very complex stuff and simplifying it. And I realized I can do what Tony does. And I'm not just saying that, like, I have that talent, and, like, I am driven to do that, and I want to serve. I want to help other people. And then I made sure, and I had a gut check that I was doing it for the right reasons, that it wasn't because I wanted to be self-seeking, self-pleasing, and do it for my ego. And I worked through all of that, because there was a moment in my life where I was a people pleaser. So, like, I had to work through that and make sure that it wasn't coming from that place or that energy. And I can say at this point, 10 years in, it earnestly is not. And that I do a very good job of balancing that out. Is it still there at times? 100%. And I'm aware of it, and I'm clocking it. And I allow others to bring it to my attention if it surfaces, or if it brings itself to the surface, which I think is healthy. But, anyways, so with all that said, that is what led me into the conclusion of, this is what I wanna do. Like, I want to start coaching. I want to similarly do what Tony's doing, but blaze my own lane and do it in my own format, in my own style. And then I realized there's still a lot of skills that I don't have, and I need to go out there, and I call it, you need the proof's in the pudding, right? So I was like, I need to start whipping up a huge bowl of pudding. And so along the way throughout my journey, I told people this is what I wanted to do, and they were like, "Why aren't you doing it now?" And I don't know, I still debate on this. Maybe I should have done it back then, but I felt like in my heart of heart, I was never going to bring the best product, because I still felt like I was a fraud or a lie, because I was just regurgitating what somebody else had told me, and I hadn't actually got the receipts myself yet. So I was like, "Nah, hopefully, if this is what I'm supposed to do, I will make it and be alive long enough to get the receipts, and then do it what I would call the right way." Whether it's the right way or not, I don't know,
It'd be
but
your right way,
yep,
if nothing else.
that's what felt in my heart was the right way. And then I knew there was supposed to be somebody, because life's all about a dichotomy, and we live in a dualistic environment, so that there was gonna be somebody else on the journey with me to balance out the energies, right? And lo and behold, you come along, and I was like, I think I found my person, but when I found you, you weren't ready yet. And so it was, and I wasn't yet ready yet either, if we're being honest. And so it was 4 or 5 years of forging to get us to this point, till we were ready to where when we actually go to launch this, we have our own principles, our own way of doing things, our own methods, and we can actually,
Our own pudding,
yeah, our own pudding, and we can actually speak on these things with authority now, instead of just regurgitating what somebody else is saying. So to me, that was very important.
and we also have our own, which I just wanna hit on, is our own reps and our own, attempts and successes and failures. Like, so we can, yeah, I feel very, prepared to be able to, I feel very, responsible.
Mhm.
As far as, like, what we talk about, we're gonna always be open to feedback, but at the same time, we also aren't saying something. It's important to me that we don't really, like, my part of not being ready was that I didn't, speak on something that we didn't have receipts, and
Yeah.
that was, some of that was part of your leadership saying, like, "Hey, you don't know what you don't know," and so, but but that makes me feel super, responsible that we're able to speak on actual things that occurred.
And some people may say, "No, you're not, because you're not a billionaire, or you don't have $100 million businesses and all of this." And touche, like, valid. And I would say if that was the goal, then yeah, you're right. But that's not really the goal. That's not what we're doing. We're trying to work our way there while also checking all the boxes, but not just checking the boxes, checking them well, doing them at a high level and to where we're at 70% or higher grade wise on all the boxes. That's different. If we were just
And
full heavy on money and money alone, yeah, we could do
we
that.
convert that, yeah.
But we want to make sure that we're moving the entire picture forward, not just a portion of it. And so that's the important part. And I think we are doing that. And we've definitely failed at a lot of stuff along the way. But as we were talking about, every misery, every challenge, every bad thing is actually a good thing. And so we have the motto of be grateful for the challenge, right? So, like, I'm grateful for the failure because of the failure, I'm gonna be one step closer to actually finding the answer. So,
And
and
I
that's what
think
forges us because you like, how do you make a sword? You make a sword by putting it in the fire hundreds of times and beating it and beating it and beating it and beating it, and you're shaping it and molding it. So those failures is just the time that we went into the fire and we got beat.
yeah.
And next thing you know, we're gonna turn into this bright, shiny, extremely sharp, lethal sword.
That's that's still going to if you're gonna use the sword and you go use it for, uh well, to summarize, if you're gonna put the sword up on the wall and it be decoration, then it's probably gonna stay perfect, right? Or it'll stay as good as you built it. But if you're going to actually go and use the sword, say in battle, or if you're just, doing it for a workout and you're just going and throwing it around but if you use something, it's going to get damaged or it's going to get changed, and then you're gonna have to what? Put it back in the fire and beat it again. So it's the biggest part of that is also that it's never going to there is no there.
Yes.
Like, it's like we know we both talk to each other where we're like, we set a goal and then we either hit it or we miss it, right? Irrelevant. It's just both are gonna happen, but then it's, like, good because it's like if we hit the target, how did we hit the target and how do we do it again? If we miss the target, how did we miss the target? How do we not do it again? And I think that's just a more fun place to live. Like, and I think when you're building a business, it's pretty easy to point to, but it's similar. People can relate to it with a diet or with a relationship or you can insert thing you're trying to do. And if that approach is much more, what would you say? It's frictionless, I guess. I don't know. It's not easier, but you're not carrying all this unnecessary weight of like, oh, we failed. And it's like, no, that's just an indicator. We just did the wrong behavior.
Yep.
And it makes it, I guess it makes it simple. Hey, it makes it simple. Tying back into the Tony Robbins, like he takes complex things and makes it simple. And I think that's what I was just trying to say is that approach and that mindset makes hard things not easy, but simple.